You are now tuned in to the On Air Brands podcast.
Never gets old.
There you are. I can hear you. What about Eric?
Eric looks.
Go to the video.
You good, Eric?
Yeah,
Hello.
I a little bit.
What's doing? Welcome to the On Air
Roll the
Brands
intro.
Live show. What's going on?
Okay, this is live.
Yes.
It certainly is.
We're live. Did I miss the whole show? What happened to the music and the theme song?
No, it all played. It played perfectly, and you're a little stuttering. So, welcome to the On Air Brands Live show, everybody. You're tuned in right here, right now. You're witnessing the journey, the documentation of a thriving and growing media agency as we are. Eric's trying to get everything into control. We are joined by the usual suspects, as they say. Eric, you want to say hello?
We'll say hello for him.
I'll take that as a thriving yes. Lisa, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. This is an exciting day. As you can see, technology certainly shows its hand at the most opportune times and shares with us an opportunity to grow a little bit and continue to learn the technology. We have a really exciting show planned because we have some exciting news about things that we're rolling out, and we can't wait to share that today. So I think we're going to, once we have all the technology figured out, say hello to everyone, share who is on the feed with us. We have a guest today, as we do many times each week. We have a guest that you have seen before, and I think we'll add some great insight into what we're unveiling today.
Yeah. Yes, and to really call him a guest is that's
A friend.
I don't know. He's everything to us.
friend.
Right there, you see him on the screen. It's
There he is.
Matthew Passy. Welcome. Yes, yes.
Oh, me? Oh,
yes.
I'm the one. Oh,
Center stage.
it's a lot of pressure. I've got to deliver value. I thought I was just here for tea and crumpets.
You can be. You can be. Absolutely. So what's going on, Matthew?
Not too much. Not same old, same old. Just pumping away, doing the stuffs and the things, working from home, and trying to raise two little ones at the same time, and sheltering in place like everybody else in the world.
I hear you. It's not often that we get to say there are 5 New Jersey people on the show right now. We're all New Jersey. I'm a very proud New
Jersey strong.
Lifelong.
Yes, I am very proud of that. So as Lisa indicated, you are tuned in for a very special show because we've been teasing over the past several days. We have 2 good announcements that we might as well start revealing. Eric, you want to handle? Are you back with us, by the way?
Yeah,
Are you in real time?
I don't know. Am I real time?
Yeah,
Can you
sound
hear me?
good.
Sounding good.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, I want to highlight for folks there. We've got the technology on lock. It's just when we go live, something happens. Who knows? Technology will do what it wants to do. But let me know if I'm choppy, if I'm coming in clear, because I don't have to do. All right. Awesome.
You're perfect.
Folks, thanks for always being in tune with us and on the air with us. We're super excited to bring the news to each and every one of you because we've been sharing it internally with our Podmex family, with the team, and it's been a work of art, I would like to say. Thanks to Lisa Candela Hulbert, who has helped us foster this relationship. with the man, and we're going to say it right now. I'll just
wait a minute, but
each one of
actually
you.
we have to, Eric, I'm sorry. The first thing we have to announce is before we announce the keynote, we have to announce the event.
Yes, you want to announce the
You're
event.
so
because-
excited, Eric.
Well,
I love
I'm
it.
super
I love it.
excited. You know, I don't want to tease it out anymore because we're 5 minutes into the show. We're going to announce it, and then we'll tell everybody what the heck the event is about, because then we can go on another 5 minutes about the event itself. But I'm going to announce to everyone who's going to be a part of the event that we're throwing that you can be a part of as well for PodMax Global. But we have the president of the Sasha Group, which is a VaynerX company, James Orsini, but we like to call him Jimmy. Jimmy the Pencil, to be exact. But yeah, folks, we're really, really excited to bring the VaynerX family and Gary and everyone associated with Gary. If you don't know which Gary I'm talking about, we're talking about the one and only Gary Vaynerchuk and Jim Orsini, not Gary Vaynerchuk, to be a part of PodMax Global, to be clear. But James Orsini, who is his right hand in the Sasha Group and building small businesses, is going to be a part of PodMax Global. So, Josh, take it away. What the heck is PodMax Global?
Well, first of all, thank you, Matt, for the golf clap. I love it. We are, in fact, on May 22nd. Mark your calendars. Friday, May 22nd. We are doing PodMax Global, which is a completely virtual event. Imagine that. You possibly know us for our flagship event, PodMax, which is a live in-person all-day event where you as entrepreneur get the chance to record and be interviewed as a guest on top podcast shows in your industry. And in between those sessions, when the microphones are off, you get to network, collaborate, and meet with other like-minded, brilliant individuals in the room that can become partners, colleagues, mentors, and collaborators. We also expose you to panel discussions and a keynote. Why this is so impressive, if I could say, is because we take great pride in that coveted keynote spot that we bring to the table for, again, the handful of live in-person PodMax events we've done. We've brought you Jason Pfeiffer, Entrepreneur Magazine. We've brought you Christina Everett, iHeartRadio. And now, as we say, the tradition continues with James Orsini, the Sasha Group of VaynerX Company. This is the person you want to learn from. This is who we are all excited to bring to our table. Because of the current circumstance that we all find ourselves in, we really had no plan, no intention to do a virtual event at this time. Yes, we've had conversations of the need to do virtual things and sessions and ideas like that, but to bring the PodMax concept and event to a virtual format was not in the cards, but really it forced us wonderfully so into that. And we saw the writing on the wall and we said, well, let's just go from A to B with that and make it happen. So that's what PodMax Global is. It's an all day, a 1 day, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time. You secure a ticket and you're invited to the whole day. You as entrepreneur who has a message, a story you want to get out and you'll be on 3 podcast shows. And again, in between those shows, when you're recording as a guest, you will be exposed and participate in panels, Q&As, and of course, that keynote spot by James Orsini to round out the day. You want to be there. You should be there. It's going to be a fantastic day. We're all excited about. Podmax.co is the space to begin that process.
Wow. That's super exciting.
Very
Love
nice.
it.
Do you love it, Matthew?
I'm very excited for you guys. Yeah, I mean, we had talked a couple of weeks ago for a different project and talking about, making sure that you continue the brand, keep things going, and living in the world that we're living in today. If you can't do it in person, there's still a great opportunity to do this virtually. And everybody is trying to, keep their events, keep their momentum, keep their brands going. And so I'm really happy for you guys that you are going to be plowing ahead with this and doing something.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And I love the whole idea of pivoting from the in-person PodMax, but creating that same environment of networking, of the energy that comes from everyone being together and being interviewed on the different podcasts, sharing their message, getting their brand out there. It's amazing way to pivot and really get, the energy of what we've created after 3 PodMaxes.
Yeah.
I want to highlight to the folks, and thank you for that, Lisa, the people who were part of PodMax, any of our other events live, had a certain experience, and it was outside, it was additive or bigger than just having interviews and having live interviews. The people always talked about um, after the event how much they loved the networking aspect, how much they loved being able to find new clients or partners, and then also the high level panels and keynotes that we had. People would get a ton of value and learn so much from the live event. So the cool thing that the team did was we focused on how do we deliver that again? How do we make sure we deliver that same value, although it's not live and in person anymore? How do we bring it to the virtual world? And you guys are going to be so excited. You're going to be really, really surprised by how we're delivering that same value, but virtually. We've been testing and test driving and doing all these cool things behind the scenes to figure out what exactly can we do to mimic that. And I think we've done it. We've really figured it out.
Yeah, I want to talk about the fact that we not only, I mean, we've been so excited about bringing James Orsini on for perhaps a variety of obvious reasons, but I want to pull back the curtain and discuss with Lisa's lead here, because she's the one who had the contact. And she's the one who really made this relationship happen over time. And I think it's so valuable and important to all of us to realize when you're in business, how important relationships and the right relationships are to everything and the different kinds of relationships. So Lisa, why don't you start us in how in the world did you even connect with James to get to a point where you could say, hey, would you like to be part of this event we're doing? And then have him say, yeah, sure, whatever you need. Where did it all begin?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, really of years. And you really, the lesson is you don't know how something will come full circle, how a relationship that you start just by having basic conversations will grow. It's a lesson in the power of relationships and the power of social media. So James and I are both proud Seton Hall University alumni. He graduated different year than me, different era, but we both have that bond of being part of the Seton Hall University family. And we were both part of the Seton Hall University Alumni Board. And over the course of a couple of years of being part of the board, we would attend mutual dinner, different events, and and interact, but on a very general level. And one of the events, I learned that he was part of Gary Vaynerchuk's team, and I had been following Gary for a while, and came to understand his message and the delivery of the information that he was sharing. Just so much content, and so we would have some general conversations about Gary, about working for Gary, and what Gary was really like behind the scenes, which he said he's an awesome guy, just what you see, just as a little background information on that. But over the course of time, we connected on social media, would interact, on a very general basis, and again would just say hello at different events, but maintained a connection, a simple enough connection that we knew who each other were, but we didn't have any real in-depth conversations. Back when we rolled out PodMax #1 back in September of last year, it was always in the back of my head that James would be such a great asset to the PodMax story, to the PodMax event, because of what he offered in his background of working for VaynerMedia, VaynerX, what his background before that was in building brands and advertising. He understood the space that we were in, the space of the PodMaxers, the people the entrepreneurs that were attending the event, and of the podcasters themselves. And so I always thought it would be a really good fit for him, but to have him come in person for the level of activity that he is involved in every day would not be possible. Then we pivoted a couple of weeks ago and said, well, let's try this PodMax Global, this virtual event. And it came to my mind, this might be the fit that we've been looking for. And so the time was right. The opportunity was right to reach out to him. We had, like I said, maintained connection on social media and interacted briefly. And so it was a strong enough connection that I felt comfortable to reach out to him and ask him if he would be willing to participate and be our keynote speaker. He was extremely gracious and set up a Zoom call and basically said, Lisa, what do you need? It's the power of communication, the power of relationships, also the power of developing a commonality with somebody. And it could be something, that is just in your past. We were not attending the school at the same time. We probably didn't have the same professors, but we had the bond of the experience of being a Seton Hall University alumni. And when you put that together, he was willing to do whatever we wanted him to do for the event. He was very excited about it. He has shared some ideas on topics, and we're working behind the scenes to really create the best event and share, have him share the most information during his keynote that to be of the best value to our attendees. So he's excited about it. I'm excited about it. I know the PodMax Global and the PodMax team is really pumped to give this event and to share his keynote with all the attendees. I think it's going to be excellent because he has such a wealth of knowledge.
There are 3 points of interest I just want to reiterate here that you mentioned, and I'd love to get Matthew's take on it as it relates to being in business and cultivating relationships, which is so important for everybody to really master. That too is an art in every sense. You mentioned that you found a common ground. I want to discuss the importance of that. You mentioned that it was always in the back of your mind, visualization, knowing, gaining clarity on who can help you and who you can help and who you want and what would be a good fit, and seeing that over and over again. Very important. I do that as often as possible with people, thoughts, and ideas that I want to eventually come to fruition. And then I also picked up on the fact that you deliberately did not and could not rush this. It's like any other relationship, slow and steady. You have to build it over time. Matthew, you relate to these kinds of things in your world, in your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way you summarized Stacey's points was absolutely perfect. The fact that you are not talking to this person always looking to close makes them more receptive to you when you actually do have something that you want to ask of them. Having a genuine relationship, the genuine connection, genuine conversation, and not always just looking how you're going to close is what's going to make that close so much easier, because then it doesn't feel like they've been sold something or duped into something or, bamboozled into doing something that you wanted them to do, that it is a genuine favor or opportunity or part of your relationship building. So I think the way Stacey thought about it and handled it was just mwah.
Good word, by the way. You said bamboozled. I think that's the first time it's ever been said on our show. It very well may be.
I've got some more old timey slang. I'll throw down a 23 skidoo at some point as well if you like.
You tell me it's groovy, we're out of here.
So, I mean, since we're like
Bring it all back.
we're heading into a pandemic of the 1918 and the depression of the 20s. Like, I'm going to bring back some of that lingo to make it feel really fun.
Oh no! Before we leave this conversation, Matthew, can we go meta for a minute? Because let's turn the focus from Lisa and James to you and all of us, because we had a very similar thing. Me and you connected somehow some time ago, but then what allowed you to become a friend and a fan and a colleague with us, right? There was something similar that happened there. How did we even get to this point with you?
I think there was a Facebook thread, something about either people based in Jersey or people talking about studios, and you popped up and said something to the effect of, oh, we've got a studio in Trenton. I'm like, there's a podcast studio in Trenton in my old backyard. Like, how do I not know about this? And I'm a little bit of a podcast geek, so anytime somebody has a podcast studio within driving distance, I want to go check it out. And I apologize because there's a few more in the state that I want to go to, and just can't right now. But so, I immediately wrote like, oh my God, yeah, I've got to come check it out. And you, with your energy, wrote back like, yes, you do. Come on up. And you invited me to a Podmax and to something else. And we couldn't make it work. But then we came to, hey, why don't you just jump on the show one day? I said, great. I'll go on any podcast show. I don't really, vet anything. If you've got a microphone, I'll sit in front of it. I'm fine.
Right.
And then showed up that day. And that, like, I'll be honest, because Eric and I talked about this a little bit on his show the other day. Like, the actual meeting part was a little strange because I was supposed to come in at one point and then you asked me to push back. And because of all this weird timing, I was like, you know what? I'll just come up early. If you don't mind, I'll hang out there. Maybe something will change. Maybe it won't. Showed up, said hello. Like, the first thing I said to you guys was, hey, nice to meet you. By the way, I might have to leave for a call in like 2 minutes. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I took my call. I came back. I sat on your couch. Your next guest came in and you were totally focused on them. And I'm like, all right, like, I'm not going to get in their way. Pulled out my computer, started working. And I think we were all like, what's going on here? Is this going to work? Is there going to be a second date? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But then, like, once our time was ready, right? It was, my opportunity to come on the show. We got to talk, and just the sparks flew all around the room. Like, everybody just connected and melded, and it was fantastic.
Like every other awkward show host, you opened up behind the mic.
Yeah. I mean, I typically open up in front of the mic too, but right, like, I felt out of place and sort of like, why don't you just sit in the back over here? There's someone more important coming in first. I'm like, oh, really?
Oh.
And not that I think you did, but at the moment, like, part of me was like, am I being slighted? Am I like,
no, never.
And not because of anything you necessarily did, but just other things that I was dealing with. And it was just like, it reinforced some negative thoughts in my head. Like, oh man, like, my imposter syndrome had just kicked in at a high gear recently. And so for them to be like, oh, we're going to bump you. Oh, these other people are coming in. We're going to give them big hugs and, make a big deal about how much we love them. And here's a 80-gallon jug of wine. I'm like, am I supposed to be here? What is going on? But yeah, once all that nonsense faded away and we just got to talk about who we really are and what we're looking to do, all that nonsense just disappeared and we just had a natural connection. And then, we reinforced that down at Podfest, and
wow.
It's
really amazing how you've become part of the team, as we say, and certainly a friend, a fan, a colleague. And that's just the beginning. I really appreciate you in that. And I've already exercised this. You're obviously very schooled and proficient in the podcast space, having come from radio. I love that whole background of yours, which is a missing piece in our world. So I always appreciate looking at you and to you for support and for consult and questions. I've turned to you and said, hey, can you look at this? What do you think of this? Is this cool? Are we on to something? It's always a good person to have in your corner.
I like being your sounding board. I don't know why you'd want to look at this. I mean, talk, sure, but this, although the ring light that I have today is definitely helping, as Eric.
You and me both. Yeah.
The classic face for radio / podcasting.
Oh my God.
No, but I think it also introduces the concept or reinforces the concept of that commonality. Because once you were able to jump into talking about podcasting and something you're obviously all passionate about, we're all passionate about, the connection becomes so much easier and so much more immediate because you have that common ground. As a realtor, when I go into a property or go in a listing appointment, many times I'll try and find that common ground. I might see something on a wall. They might be a Yankee fan. They might, like a certain type of cooking, whatever it is. And it might be something really, really small.
Well,
but it creates a comfortable environment.
I also remember seeing something on your phone that very first day. You showed me something on your phone, and I saw something that said Temple Beth Shalom or something like that. And I was like, are you, am I, are you Jew? I'm Jew. You're Jew. I'm Jew. Who's Jewish? You're Jewish. I'm Jewish. We're Jewish. Hey, everybody, we're Jewish. Get over here. We're Jewish. We're Jewish. Tell everybody, get the meeting. We're going. Leave us alone. We're Jewish. And then here we are.
It is funny you bring that up, that whole idea of finding that little commonality. It's why when you meet people for the first time and you're engaging in small talk, you ask such silly questions trying to find that commonality.
Right.
And like if they fall on dead ears, or like you ask a question, you're like, oh, so what do you do? And they tell you like, I got nothing. You just keep reaching and reaching and reaching to find something to connect with a person. And it could just be the littlest, the tiniest little thing.
Absolutely.
But once you unlock that, I had a client call the other day. I was wearing my Jets hat while I was on the call because we're pros around here. And right away, the first thing he said, he's like, "Are you really a Jets fan?" And I think a relationship that had started off a little awkward, like immediately opened up, and just the entire tone changed because we found that commonality.
Right. If you had a Giants hat on, it'd be a whole different story.
Probably. Probably.
It's a really interesting concept of finding the commonality, because in any circumstance, in any relationship, right? But let's talk business, certainly in all kinds of relationships. But here, even in business, or especially in business relationships, searching for that commonality, whether consciously or subconsciously, deliberately or subtly, it's happening. You are searching for it, right? Think about it. You're searching for it, whether you're overt, deliberate, or subtle, or conscious or subconscious about it. And the more commonality you find, the more you like and appreciate, respect and desire and want to be around this person. And that becomes the win-win. So it's just about finding different levels of commonality as a base, I imagine.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about here for folks who are maybe just tuning in is finding that common ground and identifying relatively quickly. And this is a muscle that you need to exercise, because not everyone can do this on the fly or be witty or do things that's just not natural to them. So I highly recommend reading How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Mm-hmm. That is one of the staples and one of the entrepreneurs. I think it should be fused in with like the E-Myth and all that stuff, because it truly shows you ways that you can sort of connect with people right away, things that you need to identify, like you guys were saying, looking on the wall and seeing if it's their Nick fan or whatever it is that you can grab onto, not anymore anyway. See, like you like that little
very
drop.
Few of them.
I'm testing it. But it's very true. T-shirts, anything, a screensaver on their phone with their kids. Matthew and I quickly found out we have, kids the same exact age, and then that becomes a starting point. And usually, yes, it's a least common denominator when it comes to like, television, movies, kids, weather. But once you get past that point, you can start taking it deeper. And okay, how can I help you? And if you start to identify ways that you can help each other infuse your businesses or brands, then that's a win for everyone. And that's what's happened here with Matthew. That's what's happening with James Orsini at VaynerX. And there's all these wonderful things that happen if you allow it, if you open yourself up and start, what do they call it? The reticular activation system, or what is that called?
Sounds right.
Yeah.
RAS.
Yeah, where you start to notice the things that you normally wouldn't have noticed, but because you're paying attention to it, you're looking for those little common waypoints.
Which
It's
goes
funny.
back to what I said about Lisa, that she pointed out months ago, if not more. She always tucked James into the back or side of her head, saying, at some point, I'm pretty sure that there could be an ask and that he can integrate somehow with us. And that's what you have to do.
It's always the long game, right? Whenever you meet someone, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, let's just jump into bed right now. There are people like that, but there's ways to say, you know what, this person, I may not be able to help, or maybe they can't help me at the moment, but I feel like there's something, and it's going to pay off down the line. We're going to connect. We're going to work together. It's funny because if people do that to you, someone actually said to me at a meeting, and I've met him several times over the course of years, and he said to me, oh, we're going to work together someday, you and I. and I get it. I know what he's saying because I think the same thing when I talk to people, but he said it in a creepy way. So you have to be very self-aware how you're coming off, because it could seem bizarre.
And he said it out loud.
Were you there? Yeah, he's like, yeah. And
he's like, oh, did I mean to say
and
that?
He was an intimidating guy too. So I was like, oh yeah. I was like, oh, all right. Well, hopefully someday, and not where I'm like tied up in your basement.
Well, the only thing about all that is the long game, is that there can also be some frustration, right? If you're approaching someone and thinking at some point this is going to become a client, or I'm going to make the sale, and you're doing all these things with the intention of eventually making money off this person or engaging in a financial relationship with them, when you meet them and you do things that shouldn't be, related to that target, you're going to get frustrated by it. And you're going to get like, oh, he's asking me to do this. Well, is he ever going to sign on the dotted line? Or, oh, they're asking me to do this. Am I ever going to get them to come on my show? Like, you really have to do it genuinely without knowing you're going to sign them for something, or else you'll probably just get annoyed every time. And by the time they're ready to say yes, like, you'll have showed your impatience with them and probably lost that opportunity.
That's a really, really good point. And being genuine about what you're doing is, if you're not, it will come across. And I think that's a really important point. And you will get frustrated because you're doing it for the wrong reason. You're developing relationships, you don't know where you might be able to help someone in the future, or they might be able to help you. And being forthright and genuine about it is the key. I mean, I also think that being passionate or being proud of whatever the ask is hugely important, because I know that the PodMax brand is amazing. I know that the event is amazing. I have seen people, the reactions afterwards, the testimonials they give, the feedback, the enthusiasm that they share after participating in the event. It's so much easier to go ask someone to be part of that because you feel it, the energy, and you have a story to tell. And I think that makes the world of a difference. The experience and the knowledge makes the world of a difference.
And you have to believe in what
absolutely
you're giving to someone. If you don't believe in it, then there's no way you're going to sell it to anyone else. There's no way. So I love the show here, and how we've really sort of highlighted to the folks at home the power of relationships and nurturing and fostering those relationships, which will lead to bigger things, or lead to a way that they can help you. Because I honestly, truly see the benefit of James being part of our event leading down the road as us becoming part of the 4Ds. We have the 4Cs, but the 4Ds. But I think that he is, he knows, if he's not thinking of it in the forefront, he's thinking it's subconscious, that we are the avatar for a Vayner Media 4D client, right? And Lisa and I, we've talked
Absolutely.
about this, and who wouldn't want to go through that university? Who wouldn't want to get schooled by that team? Because there's just so many ways and strategies to making those connections, whether they pan out or not. I mean, it's truly magical, for lack of a better word, if done right, and having the patience and the foresight to make those moves without intention of taking advantage of people.
Well, and for people that don't know, so the Sasha Group has they take smaller size companies, not the mega, the Pepsis, the Apple,
Small, mid-sized
smaller
businesses.
mid-size. I think like 1 million to 50 million, maybe value companies, and help them grow their brand and their message and expand their businesses. And they have the 4Ds, and that's a session where it's like a deep dive, basically.
A 1-day session. It's about, I think, 12 participants in a room with Gary and his top team players that through the course of the day, like you said, they will go deep with you.
And what's cool about that is the fact that they are coming to PodMax Global is for them an opportunity, and I'll throw up the info here as well. It's an opportunity for the Sasha Group to meet more small, mid-sized businesses, more SMBs, so that anyone who signs up with us and for that day will have an opportunity to meet James, have that digital handshake and say, oh, you know what? I could use more help beyond PodMax and become a Sasha Group VaynerX client.
Here's what else I love about the whole entire thing. Separately yet related, we just recently launched the On Air Brands Network, which is taking place inside of our private Facebook group. I'm sure we can link if you're interested. It's absolutely free if you're the right fit to become a part and get in those conversations with us. But one of the things that we shared yesterday was the original announcement from Gary V himself and James Orsini, who's the president of the Sasha Group. It was Gary's announcement with James about the launch of the Sasha Group. And I was shocked to know really that this took place January of 2019. So really just a little over a year ago. So what started intriguing me about that concept is that we're now about to have James talking as our keynote. And one of the things I'm interested in hearing, imagine if you were able to pick Gary's brain when VaynerMedia was just a year old, when it was still a young, growing company. Imagine how cool that conversation would be and how much you would learn just hearing what he's experienced in the first year, where he sees things going. So now we have that ability with James. It's a Vayner company. They help small to mid-sized businesses create big growth through social. And now we'll have the opportunity to talk to him. Hey, you've been at this for a year. See things from our perspective, right? We're all growing companies, perhaps in the earlier stages of our company. So now he's in the same division as us. So I'd love to hear his feedback on what has that first year been like? How can you look back? What worked? What is working? Where are you going from your perspective?
I love it. And I think the insight would be tremendous. And tagging on to that, you just brought to mind. So he, one of the things Gary talks about is documenting the journey, which we're doing here and we've done for the past year. This podcast has evolved, the show has evolved, but we've really now narrowed down on documenting the journey, the growth of a media company, but also all of our businesses and the focus on being entrepreneurial. We're doing that, which is pretty neat. So let's see what happens when we look back on it a couple of years from now.
True.
Which I think will be really interesting. I think it'll be fun to take a look at. The other thing is that to my surprise this morning, I was listening to Tea with Gary V.
Yeah.
Want to throw this in there, and I recognized the voice, and I said, I recognize that voice. When you listen to podcasts, right, you recognize voices, not necessarily faces. I recognize the voice because I wasn't watching the screen, and it was Pili Yarusi and Jason Yarusi, who are and have been podcasters. So they have a podcast at PodMax, and they had an ask a tea with Gary V. They asked him a question this morning. So you just never know how people, and very appropriate that we knew we were going to be talking about Gary V and the Sasha Group and James Orsini this morning. So again, another full circle moment.
Yeah. And talking a full circle, I think we've, from when I started on this very show, which was in the original studio 2 studios ago there, I remember that we had weekly themes of Gary V. So it's just more of the visualization and getting the words out there. Through my sneakers, we've always had those conversations, and he just always seemed to come up once or twice in the show. Who knows?
Yeah, it's strange how the universe works. You know, things all sort of crisscross, and but yeah, it's exciting. We're really excited to bring PodMax Global, the virtual version of our live events that you've grown to know and love. And if you haven't been a part of it, this is truly a cool opportunity for you, because it was, pre-COVID, when the economy was absolutely booming and everybody was, I thought that I was just crushing it. Everybody's like, I'm amazing. And it's really the economy, the entire nation was feeling, and the world maybe was feeling, that we have opportunities. There's more growth. There's a lot of things happening in the world of business. So I think that now we have a very approachable price point for people who want to join that experience on a virtual level. So if you check out podmax.co, we'll throw up the banner again, that you can go check it out, look for more details, sign on with us, and we're more than happy to really treat you like family. And that's what we call everyone. We call everyone the PodMax family, because we get so close during these events. And I'm really proud of the team for putting together something on a virtual level that's going to provide that same level of experience, live, now virtual. So yeah, check it out. Hit us up if you want to hear more about it. And yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Matthew, what says you? What have you been up to? I know you've been pivoting, you've been adding, you created a new podcast. Why?
Because I wasn't busy enough, and I thought, I still have a few strands of hair on my head that are left. So what can I do to really expedite their thinning and eventually leaving forever? Well, no, the part of the reason why I did it was because my friend and my old boss and I were working together on some other projects, and we wanted to help. We wanted to be able to tell stories and provide resources and provide a community for folks here in the Garden State to see if we can help people get through, this pandemic and the sheltering in place and the economic crisis. So that's why we went ahead and did that. In the meantime, you were just talking about the difference in the economy before sheltering in place and what's happening now, and business opportunities. And I've listened to a bunch of my client podcasts lately, and a lot of them talk about VCs and investors and startups, and so many good startups, so many important businesses are born out of struggle, right? Desperation is the greatest source of innovation, something like that. And so this whole thing has done a couple of things for me. One, it is forcing me to diversify my portfolio. I don't mean stocks, bonds, commodities, like whatever. I mean diversify like my income streams, so that if God forbid anything were to happen, that my main source of income should just disappear like that, the way so many people's have. Like, I want to be ready, and I want to be flexible, and I want to be sure that something else will make up for that. And two, I want to respond to the moment. And so I am also dreaming up, another business venture at the very moment that, we are doing this. I've partnered with somebody else and laying down some groundwork, and it's something that I think meets the moment, but will also address concerns beyond the pandemic. So I see struggle as opportunity, and I think you guys are addressing that the same way. Like, PodMax, great event, great concept. I know the one that was supposed to happen, the one that I was going to go to, was going to be way further out in Pennsylvania, which was great because it opened up the opportunity of who you could invite to this event, both on the host and the guest side. But these events being live, like, you're still limited geographically to who could be there. And unless you're going to fly the whole crew out to, Arizona, right? Like, you're never going to pull people from everywhere. And so I think the fact that you are pivoting to virtual and, having this out there, not that I think you should replace your in-person events. All of you have very infectious, sorry, I keep saying that, it's a bad word to use right now. You have really magnetic personalities that are best experienced in person. So I would never want to see you get rid of the live events, but the fact that you are setting up the infrastructure to do these virtually means, maybe it's live virtual beyond this, and you've just created a new and probably budding business opportunity out of absolute desperation and necessity.
Good points. Really good points, Matthew, because I think that as business owners and everyone out there who's watching, whether you own a business or you have your own personal brand, it's critical to, and now we're using this word pivot, but it's true that you have to figure out, what can I do? What can I add on? What can I now change or tweak or modify so that we can still continue to grow and move forward and help people? And this was something that we've been talking about for a long time, but we never prioritized it because we were so busy with the live events. But so it's funny, the silver lining, really, truly finding the silver lining out of adversity, like you said, so that you can build something that you wouldn't necessarily have had. It's funny because, not to bring up this weird thing, but
But here
I'm
comes
sure
the weird
people,
thing.
here comes the weird thing, is aren't we going to have what I'm coining COVID kids? There's going to be all these people that are bored at home, like it's like the baby boom. What are we doing? We're home with our loved ones all the time. So there's going, yeah, it's going to happen. Matthew's like, no, hold on.
There will be a baby boom, but I read somewhere else, it's like, it will only be first-time parents, because anybody who's stuck at home with kids is like, no, this is enough. Stop
Sleep
it.
in another room.
Stop it. We don't have enough house. Stop it.
We were running out of food. No more mouths to feed.
To your point, though, yeah, like innovation breeds, or necessity breeds innovation, and I think
kids.
I mean, well, no, I'm not going to get it.
Go
Not that
there.
type of
Go
show.
there.
Coronials. Oh, that's funny here.
But I think there are always going to be people who meet adversity with complaints, right? And don't get me wrong, you lost your job like day one, like, yes, be upset, be angry, do all of those things. Day two, figure it out, right? Like, get off the couch and innovate and pivot and do something else. And you will see that the people who were always strong, who are always innovating, who are always thinking, like, they immediately saw opportunity in this. And the people who, retreated, complained, and are just waiting for the same old to come back and aren't willing to go out and pivot are going to be in trouble. But they're going to be in trouble no matter what you get hit with.
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's the same people. I love that you said day one, you lost your job. Fine. Yeah, kick and scream, curse, throw things, do what you got to do.
Right. Grieve.
Day two, figure it out. Now, the person who is not capable on day two to figure it out, or unwilling, because we all are capable, it's a choice. So those who are unwilling is going to say, no, I'm not going to day two. So fine, I'll challenge you. Month one, you lose your job. Kick and scream, eat bonbons, do what you got to do. Month two, change your attitude. But it's those same people who refuse to do it on day two that absolutely will not do it on month two. Vice versa, the people who lose the job on day one realize, okay, that's fine. I got that out 24 hours later. Now I have to do something.
I want to highlight, though, what you're saying here. So it's difficult for people if they're not around people to inspire them. So I highly recommend misery loves company, right, folks? Misery loves company. If you feel that you've gone down that hole, then you need to change the people who you're surrounding. Who is your network? Who are the people that you're talking to on a daily basis? Are they constantly talking about the negative aspects of what's happening? Are they constantly talking about, oh, the wood, this could happen, this may happen? I mean, if that's the case, and maybe it's at home, maybe you can try to influence them to be more positive, or you can put headphones on and say, you know what, I'm putting good food into the mental factory right now. Because I'm not going to keep feeding on this French fries and all this garbage. That's what happens over time, is you're feeding yourself all this junk, which is toxic. So you have to put the good stuff. And if you need to go into the closet and put headphones on so that you feel and hear the good stuff, listen to shows, watch people, listen to podcasts, people that are rah, rah, rah. Yes, it seems like it may be corny, but over time, this stuff affects you in a really good and positive way. So I highly recommend that you go out there, look for the great stuff, and keep feeding good, nutritious food into your mental factory.
We talked the other day about my journey into entrepreneurism, and I've said it millions of times, and I'll say it like I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's just not part of my thinking. I was, company guy, corporate guy, had a job, big company, benefits, like there were departments that handled everything. And I was very comfortable with that. And at the time that, towards the end of my career at my last company, I've been seeing more and more stuff about entrepreneurism and doing a startup and this and that. And to me, I was like, I can't do that. I'm just, this is what I know. I'm a corporate guy, blah, blah, blah. And then when I was laid off and started to really see what else was out there, right? Listen to the startup podcast, started to join, podcasting groups, started to go to a Princeton Tech meetup that was full of entrepreneurs and startup people, and realizing anybody can really create something. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. It is possible. I mean, it does, you have to have the motivation, but like, there's really nothing that's stopping you from creating your own business. And now here I am sitting here thinking about like the next 5 or 6 that I'm going to create. Like, it's so true. Who you surround yourself with matters. And so if you're surrounded by a lot of people who are just whining, complaining, that's not how it's done, or that's the way we've always done it, you can't change, then yeah, you're never going to change. But if you can, get rid of that, and you can start to surround yourself with inspiring, positive, motivated people who will tell you, yeah, you can do that. Yes, go out there and try it. You will see your attitude change. And yeah, Lauren says, you're the 5 people who you surround yourself with. Yeah. So surround yourself with 5 successful, surround yourself with 5 people who are doing what you want to do, whether it's listen to them in podcasts, watch them on YouTube, chat with them on, whatever, like, go find them.
Yeah. You brought up such a great concept here. First of all, thank you for sharing a chunk of your story. Story alert. That's what Eric and I have been preaching for a while, right? You just peppered that in, you got it out, and I'm perked up. I'm like, yes, let me hear, because we are, as human beings, we are hardwired to appreciate and be drawn to stories, right? We're like, yes, I love it. Go on. But seriously, and then we learn, and then we find commonality and things that we could relate to. But the biggest thing I love that you said was that you had it in your mind, your belief that you were not an entrepreneur. That was your false belief. And we all have them in our lives. We all have them, whether we're aware of it or not, that we have beliefs about who we are and what we are capable of. Go for it, Matthew. What's on your mind?
Oh, nothing. I was just reading my story. I was just visualizing this is me reading my story. It was the best of times.
It's a page turner.
Or this is more like, this is what I actually read nowadays. Good night, moon.
Yeah.
Good night, cloud flipping over the moon.
Yes. Well, if I could be so bold, I'm going to show you what this microphone is propped up on, because I'm in my son's room.
Yeah.
Great
book. Yama Yama Red Pajama. That's a
Yama
good book.
Yama, right. You're Spanish. I get it.
That's how I read it to the girls, so they learn Spanish.
But until you realize your own false belief system, he said, I'm not an entrepreneur. That's not for me. I can never do it. And he had to rewire and realize the false.
What I want to point out what he says, and this is a great example and reason why you should share your story and just be transparent and authentic about that, is he says, I have imposter syndrome, and he doesn't talk about it past tense. He's not saying like, oh, I'm crushing it now. I'm the most well-adjusted individual on the planet. It's like, no, I'm still vulnerable. I have relative success because, I came from corporate America, and now I start and build my own business. But the thing is, what's cool about that is there's people out there that hear it and go, wait a minute, I'm from corporate. I want to do what he's doing. It's inspiring me because if he could do it, so can I. Right. And then now you realize there's people out there going, oh, crap, we're cut from the same cloth. I want to talk to this guy. And then now he's telling you what you're thinking about yourself. But I'm afraid of the imposter syndrome. Hey, I have the same thoughts. I have the same things. So here's what I do. And it's only until you put yourself out there, whether you think it's going to hurt you or not, it's going to find people, right? You're basically throwing it out there into the reel out into the rod, into the water. And there's people that are going to come to you, and then you could potentially form a relationship and start helping each other, or that's your new client, or vice versa.
Have Orsini as your keynote. Little things.
Exactly.
But, that's a great point, because I think it shows you the other piece of this is that people want to help each other. So there was someone that was in your shoes before that maybe gave you some advice, gave you some feedback, helped you grow to where you are now. And in the same as James, understanding, the background of what we had developed before and what we were looking to do now, is willing to help. Now, he may benefit from it because he's spreading the Sasha Group message, and potential clients will listen. Of course, there's some type of benefit, which is great, and it's something that we can offer to him. But I think the big message is, and we see this in real estate investing, which is one of the things I love about it, the collaboration, the willingness to help each other, the willingness to help each other lift. And Eric, I'll let you say your quote. Of the tide, your tides quote, your high.
Rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. I'm gonna have to write it down. Let's put that in the show notes. But no, it's I think that's the big picture, is that we all have to help each other, and one person says yes, that helps us grow. Maybe it helps him grow. Matthew, you're sharing your message. It might help someone that maybe was furloughed or lost their job take a first step, and you're helping them by sharing your message. It's so powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm putting it into the show notes.
Thank you.
Matthew, Matt, do you find that sharing your story, your message, do you do that? Do you sprinkle it in? Do you use it? Do you care about it? Does it work for you in your business?
I think I do it, but subconsciously. I think because, as we alluded to earlier, I'm a member of the tribe. We come from a long lineage of storytellers. I think it's just part of who I am and part of what I do. And as you were talking about it, it's like, wow, I'm one of those entrepreneurs who goes on podcasts and talks about my entrepreneurial journey. And honestly, I would have been the first person to scoff at those people, like, whatevs. I don't need to tell my story on other entrepreneur podcasts. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I need to get on more podcasts and tell this story. Usually I just offer myself as a podcasting expert, but like, it's a good story. No, I mean, it's true. Like, it's not, if you think of it like you have to tell a story, and then someone's going to be like, okay, let me write this down. Here's the beginning. Here's the transition.
No,
right. The bridge. Like you just have to be authentic. And Eric was talking about a little bit, like, if you can be authentic and genuine and transparent and honest about who you are and what you're doing, look, your story might not appeal to everybody. It just won't. Even the most popular event, even the most popular event on the planet, the Super Bowl, right? 125 million people watch the Super Bowl every year. That means that there's approximately 130 other million people in the country who are not watching it.
They're watching the Puppy Bowl. Exactly.
They're watching the Puppy Bowl, or they're sitting there they're sitting there on Facebook going, ugh, the Super Bowl's on again.
Yeah.
Ugh. Fine, they can have like you're never going to please everybody, so don't. If you're not going to please
This
everybody,
is why I love Matthew, by the way.
you're
Yeah.
just
Tom
you're
Brady again. Jesus.
right. Yeah. I swear, if Tampa's in the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
Don't go there.
But
Right,
no,
I
like,
get it. He moved into Jeter's house. I get it.
right. And no, I will not be calling it Tampa Bay. Ugh.
Oh, never heard that. Right.
Sorry, you had to hear. But you are never going to make everybody happy. You are never like not everybody in the world is going to love you. It's just not going to happen. So be you, be authentic, and you will find the people that it works for.
Here's
and if
the
person
irony.
is doing it doesn't, then okay, it wasn't meant to be.
Here's the irony of all that. In this current iteration of my life where I am, exercising my most true self, all that nonsense that we're talking about, and realizing that, yeah, sure, I'm not going to please everybody. However, I'm pleasing and attracting the right people. Case in point, right here, right now. But going back to this point, in years past, when we're talking about if you only be who you are authentically and put that out there, you're not going to please everybody. Well, for 40 years of my life, when I was trying to please everybody, guess who I was pleasing? Zero, nobody. I didn't attract anybody in that situation. So realize that you're most likely going to lose on both fronts. Mm-hmm. So just find it within you to step up and step into who you are and accept that you're not going to please everybody, because you're never, no matter what you do, going to please everybody.
Yeah.
No.
Amen.
And most of you will never please me, just so you know.
So don't even try. Right.
Or if you're pleasing Matt, if you're pleasing him, he's a poker player. So like he's got it's hard to read him. You may think that because you have a very sort of like
that's what people say.
It's stoic, I guess. I don't know, but you're a brilliant mind. But then, like, it's hard to read. I'm like, does this guy like me? Does he like us?
Exactly. And you are lovable. I'm sure you've been called that once or twice. You are lovable, but it's tough to realize how lovable you are.
Yeah. Well, Josh Carey wears all his emotions on his face, so at the same time.
I would say his sleeve, but he's from Jersey, and I'm surprised he hasn't ripped them off and worn shirtless, sleeveless shirts.
Oh, he didn't see Justin this morning.
Yeah, where's Justin?
He's a Jersey boy.
Yeah.
He had a sleeveless shirt on this morning. That's why I'm asking.
But
like
yeah,
an actual sleeveless shirt, or did he rip them off or cut them off himself?
Actual. I think it's actual.
Yeah, I think he's got a closet full. He's like Superman, where he's like
color.
a red one, a blue one. He's got all different sleeveless shirts.
If he had ripped the sleeves off, he would also have a drawer full of potential masks to be wearing right now. Like, that's an opportunity that is completely missed right now.
That is true. Yeah.
Current. All right.
Awesome.
Where are we?
Yeah, folks. So let's do a little call shout out to each and every one. Matthew, how can people reach out to you if they want to learn and do more?
Don't touch me. We're in coronavirus. Stay away. 6 feet away. No. Thepodcastconsultant.com or Matthew Passy on all the socials. 1T, no Ian Passy. And yeah.
Did that cause a lot of issues growing up, the 1T?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Still
absolutely.
does.
I 100%.
So if I spell Matt, is it with 1T? M-A-T-T or M-A-T?
Well, so the reason why it was 1T is my mom didn't want people to call me Matt because the association with doormat, floor mat.
That's
stepped
on.
Wow. But I'm lucky because she almost went with Mathieu. Because my last name is French, and so it would have been Mathieu. So I mean, like, it was already hard having a weird spelling Matthew, and my last name, which is very susceptible to easy teasing, like stuff that kids figured out.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Very, very young age. So thanks,
Dolores, Mulva, Dolores.
It always goes back to Elaine, doesn't it?
I think it's back to sci-fi. But yeah, so just I have tried to corner the market on 2T Matthew Passy with an E as well, so that everything comes eventually back to me. But hopefully if you put in podcasting and Matthew, like, I should be the one that shows up. If I don't, I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, I think you got to figure it out. What about you, Lise?
You can reach me at lisaholbert.com.
Ooh, look at that.
And all of my socials will be on there.
Love it.
Simple.
Dr. Carey?
I got to wrap up with the PodMax Global event Friday, May 22. It's happening big time. You want to be there, don't you? It's now time. Tickets are open. This is the first big announcement where we've made for it, including the revelation of our keynote speaker. It's going to be fantastic. Podmax.co open for you right now.
And don't forget, Mr. James Orsini, the president of the Sasha Group, VaynerX company, will be there sharing and helping us with our businesses. So please join. Please check it out. More than happy to have you become part of the PodMax family. This is me, Eric, signing off. You can reach me on all my socials. You can reach me here. All is good. So we'll see you next week. Ciao.
You're now tuned in to the On Air